Danger Dolan. From greedy outlaws to conniving double agents, we count 15 incredible betrayals, many of which cost lives and changed the course of history. Number 15. Mir Jafar was a leader under the Nawab of Bengal. He was considered the last independent ruler of Bengal and rose to power after betraying Nawab Suraj ad-Daulah. Mir Jafar made a deal with the British East India Company. Jafar and his cohorts agreed to hand over the Bengali army to the Battle of Plassey in exchange for control of the new puppet state. This new puppet state, with Mir Jafar as its Nawab, paid large bribes to the company's officials. 2 years later, Mir Jafar realized the British were after total control of the Indian subcontinent. He made a futile attempt to stop the British and was, for a time, replaced. Mir Jafar's insurrection is considered the reason the British were able to take rule of India. Mir Jafar is known as Gadar-e-Abrar, betrayer of the true faith, and his name remains synonymous with treason in both Bengali and Urdu. Number 14. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were a married American couple convicted of committing espionage during the height of the Cold War. They sold information regarding the atomic bomb to the Soviet Union and recruited spies for the Russians. Upon capture by the FBI, the couple's co-conspirators confessed about the espionage and were granted exception from execution. The Rosenbergs, however, were sentenced to capital punishment in 1953. While Julius's guilt is concrete, Ethel's true involvement in the plot remains a point of contention. How dare you give our enemies the same plans for the world-destroying bombs that we're currently creating? That makes you an awful person. Number 13. Dona Marina is famous for betraying her people to the Spanish conquistadors. She is arguably the most detested woman in the Hispanic world. Marina was a former slave and the translator mistress of Hernando Cortez, who famously conquered what is today called Mexico. Dona's ability to translate the Aztec Nahuatl language into Mayan was instrumental in changing the course of the nation's history. The linguistic link between Dona Marina and Cortez's Spanish translator proved crucial for Cortez to conquer the New World. Number 12. Guy Fawkes was a devout Catholic who took up and became the figurehead for the infamous group of English Catholics who started the largest act of treason in English history, the 1605 Gunpowder Plot. After leaving England, Fawkes fought for the Spanish in the Low Countries during the 80 Years' War. When he returned, he met Robert Catesby and Thomas Wintour, who had conceived plans to blow up the Parliament building and assassinate Protestant King James I and his government. The plot, which later became known as the Gunpowder Plot, involved guarding 36 barrels of gunpowder. But, thanks to an anonymous tip-off, Fawkes was caught and the attempt was foiled. He was sentenced to death by hanging, drawing and quartering, but went out on his own terms, leaping from the scaffolding and committing suicide. The plot is remembered with an event called Guy Fawkes Night, which occurs each year on the 5th of November and involves bonfires and fireworks. So if you're ever wondering where the mask used by Anonymous comes from, just remember the 5th of November. Number 11. Aldrich Ames was a former CIA counterintelligence officer and analyst before being convicted of espionage in 1994. Ames had worked for 31 years as a Central Intelligence Agency counterintelligence officer and had untold access to military data, CIA assets, and the names of US agents. Ames exploited his position and sold this information to the Russian government, jeopardizing national security to support his and his wife's luxurious lifestyle. He is now serving a life sentence without the chance of parole in the high-security Allenwood US Penitentiary. His escapades were the subject of a 1998 made-for-TV movie. Can you imagine having a life story so boring that you can't even make theatrical release? Because I'm pretty sure Aldrich can. Number 10. Marcus Junius Brutus the Younger was part of one of history's blackest betrayals. He was the nephew of the dictator Julius Caesar, but despised tyrannies. Julius Caesar showed Brutus kindness and mercy, despite his ill-advised alliance with the Optimates during the Great Roman Civil War. There is speculation that Brutus was actually Caesar's son. Whether or not this is true, the two definitely had a close relationship. After the war, Brutus is persuaded by Cassius to join one of the most famous assassinations in all of history. Brutus joined with the Roman senators who savagely killed Caesar during the height of the revolution. According to Plutarch, Caesar covered his head with his toga when he saw Brutus among the assassins, resigning himself to his fate. Shakespeare evokes this scene with the line, "Et tu, Brutus," meaning, "even you, Brutus." Supposedly, these were Caesar's last words, when in reality his last words were probably, "Oh no, I'm being killed." Number 9. American celebrity Jane Fonda, best known for her successful workout tapes and as the daughter of legendary Hollywood personality Henry Fonda, played a controversial role as an activist and self-appointed peace ambassador during the Vietnam War. Fonda was apolitical until meeting Army Private Richard Perrin in 1968, when she became swept up in the Resistance Inside the Army movement, an underground organization of active duty soldiers who opposed the Vietnam War. Fonda became convinced the Vietnam War was immoral and that it was inflicting unnecessary trauma on American troops. Fonda was invited to North Vietnam, where she met some American POWs. These prisoners passed Fonda messages to relay to their families. They wanted them to know that they were still alive, of course. Fonda, however, relinquished the messages to the North Vietnamese, which resulted in harsher treatment and even death for some of the POWs responsible. There is an infamous picture from this period of Fonda at the controls of an anti-aircraft gun. She is despised for undermining American military efforts with propaganda-laden radio broadcasts. Fonda claimed the American POWs who endured systematic torture and inhumane conditions were hypocrites, liars, and that they were trying to make themselves look self-righteous. Allegedly, one of the post-Vietnam traditions of the United States Naval Academy is that if one sailor shouts, "Good night, Jane Fonda," his or her entire training company must respond, "Good night, bitch." Number 8. At the dawn of the American Revolutionary War, Benedict Arnold was a successful American commander. He helped capture Fort Ticonderoga and was instrumental in winning the Battle of Saratoga, which was the turning point of the war. Unfortunately, Arnold was not given credit for either success. His short temper and bureaucratic naivete earned him powerful enemies within the Continental Army, and instead of becoming an American hero, he was brought down and disgraced by his adversaries. Feeling scorned by his own country, Arnold offered to sell the coveted West Point to the British. The plot was exposed when a British spy, Major John Andre, was captured. Arnold fled and joined the British Army, where he led raids against the Americans. According to myth, Arnold regretted his treason on his London deathbed. "Let me die in this old uniform in which I fought my battles. May God forgive me for ever having put on another." However, to this day, Arnold's name remains synonymous with traitor. So if you, the viewer, are named Arnold, then why did you do it? And what's wrong with you? Number 7. Wang Jingwei began as a left-wing member of the anti-communist Chinese Nationalist Party in the days of the Republic. After the death of his close associate, Wang struggled with Chiang Kai-shek for control of the party. Chiang ultimately proved successful. Wang remained a member of the party despite being rightist and opposing many of the party's ideologies. When the Japanese invaded in 1937, Wang accepted the invading army's invitation to set up a puppet government in Nanjing. This became known as the Reorganized National Government. Wang died in 1944 and his collaboratist regime fell after Japan's surrender. Today he is seen as a classic example of Hanjian, or a traitor to the Han Chinese. Number 6. John A. Walker, a United States Navy Chief Warrant Officer and Communications Specialist, famously pulled off the biggest betrayal in naval history for 20 long years before he was finally arrested by the FBI in 1985. Walker began spying for the Soviets in 1968. Distraught over financial problems, he walked into the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C., sold a top-secret document for several $1,000s, and negotiated an ongoing salary of $1,000 a week. During his time as a Soviet spy, Walker helped the Soviets decipher more than 1 million encrypted naval messages. He organized a spy operation that the New York Times called the most damaging Soviet spy ring in history. His espionage gravely damaged the US Navy and enabled the Soviet Union to gain significant access to naval warfare, sensor data, and tactical information. He was arrested thanks to a tip-off from his jilted ex-wife after he refused to pay her spousal support. Number 5. Ezra Pound, an American expatriate and a renowned poet and literary critic who was friends with most of the esteemed Western writers of the time. He was also a proud and dedicated fascist. Pound believed the international banking system caused World War I. He felt an experimental system of social credit needed to replace the banks, and that could only be implemented by a fascist government. However, when he moved to Italy and met Mussolini, Pound largely forsook these views and adopted Nazism. During the invasion of Italy during World War II, Pound broadcasted anti-American propaganda to American troops, prompting his arrest. Pound endured harsh conditions in an American prison camp outside Pisa. This experience drove him insane and left him unfit to stand trial. Following his release from a Pennsylvania mental asylum in 1958, Pound returned to Italy to live out the rest of his days in bitterness and failing health. Number 4. Robert Hanssen was a computer and wiretapping expert who rose high in the FBI. Hanssen willingly approached the Soviet military intelligence agency, the GRU, to spruik his services. He sold the largest bulk of CIA information and assets in history to the USSR and Russia. Money was his sole motivator. His treachery comprised hundreds of American counter-espionage investigations and earned him diamonds and over $1.4 million from grateful KGB and GRU agents. Unlike Aldrich Ames, Hanssen kept a much lower profile and used a system of code names and dead drops to exchange cash and information. Cash! It is unlikely he would have been caught if his brother-in-law had not spotted a huge stack of cash on Hanssen's nightstand during a visit. Hanssen's 22-year stint as a double agent ended when he was captured in 2001. Upon his arrest, he is said to have asked investigators, "What took you so long?" He is serving out his lifetime sentence in federal supermax prison in Colorado. The story became the plot of the 2007 film Breach. Number 3. Robert Bob Ford was an outlaw who betrayed his own gang and mentor, the notorious Jesse James, by shooting him from behind to receive the associated bounty on his head. Ford greatly admired James, considering him something of a personal hero, and James trusted Ford and his brother as the last few remaining members of his gang. For their betrayal, Ford and his brother didn't receive the promised $10,000 bounty and were instead almost hanged for their association with James. They were pardoned at the last minute. Despite a deal with Crittenden, they only received $500. Ford was shot 10 years later by Edward O'Kelly, who, it's worth noting, at least had the decency not to shoot in the back. Ford's story is reenacted in the subtly titled The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Number 2. Mordechai Vanunu. In the 1980s, this guy was a nuclear technician for the state of Israel and was claiming to pursue nuclear power for civilian purposes only. In 1986, Vanunu demonstrated his opposition to weapons of mass destruction by leaking details of the covert Israeli nuclear weapons program to the British press, confirming the world's fear that Israel possessed these weapons of mass destruction. In response, the Mossad lured him to Italy, drugged him and abducted him. He was whisked away to Israel, where he was tried and convicted behind closed doors. His whistleblowing earned him more than 11 years in solitary confinement and 18 overall years in incarceration. Following his release, he has been subject to strict regulations. Today, he is regarded globally as a hero and has received many accolades, including a Nobel Peace Prize nomination. He responded to his nomination with the following: "What I want is freedom and only freedom." Number 1. Judas Iscariot. Who else could take number 1? Judas's very namesake is synonymous with betrayal. For a meager 30 pieces of silver, Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 apostles, betrayed Christ by kissing him on the cheek, identifying him to the authorities. His betrayal led to Christ's death by crucifixion, making him the most notorious traitor in history. Later, filled with the remorse of having turned his back on his friend, mentor, and God, Judas returned the money and killed himself. Today, Judas's motivations are the source of great debate. The fact of his damnation is also debated. In Dante's Inferno, Judas resides in the deepest pits of hell, occupying one of Satan's 3 mouths. So you better watch yourself, Arnold. That's it for this countdown, and have a good one!